Hi all, I'm Asta Bhardwaj. I'm the go-to-market security specialist. Currently, I'm supporting global financial services customer. Some of my customers include NASDAQ, Barclays, HSBC, etc. I've been with AWS now for 2+ years, but have been with security almost my entire career of 14 years. I'm excited to talk about today's topic, and I think Harish and Ron did a pretty good job in explaining to what it is like when we are talking about this generative AI. I know it's everywhere, but today I'll focus on what generative AI security is all about and what is AWS doing to make sure that your data is secure. Um, so let's get started. For today's agenda, I'll do a quick primer on generative AI, and then I'll also highlight some of the risks and challenges in generative AI. Then we'll cover three main use cases. The first one is obviously security of generative AI, um, in which we are going to talk about how do we really help our customers to protect their data who are using Amazon Bedrock, Sagemaker, Amazon Q, or any other similar generative AI tools. Then the next one, which is using generative AI for security. We are going to talk a little bit about on how our AWS security services that already have AI ML built in as a capability like guard duty, inspector, detective, Macy, and others are helping out in minimizing all the vulnerabilities, threats, and risks that come along with this journey. And then the last one, we are going to talk about security from the generative AI powered threats. I know Harish kind of touched on it a little bit on, with this generative AI being everywhere, the threats, the vulnerabilities, the ransomware, they're getting smarter, deadlier day by day when it comes to Gen AI. So we are going to touch a little bit on how do we deal with, all these intelligent bots, malwares that are coming up with it. I think one of the good news with all this is that there is a lot of overlap in each one of these use cases. And we are really talking about just applying security best practices in each one of these. Let's talk about what is, a generative AI stack looks like. So if you look at the bottom of the stack where you see infrastructure for foundational models, training and inference, the bottom of the stack, we have all our physical hardware, such as Nitro systems, GPUs, Trainium, Amazon SageMaker, which are used for, the foundational model training and inference. The Nitro system provides enhanced security. It also continuously monitors, protects, and verifies the instance hardware and firmware. Virtualization resources are offloaded now to dedicated hardware and software, which minimizes your attack surface. And finally, these Nitro systems security model is locked down and prohibits any sort of administrative access, which eliminates the possibility of any human error or tampering. At the middle layer, we have tools to build uh, using our large language models and other foundational models. Today, this can be done by Amazon Bedrock. And the top layer is we have applications that leverage LLMs and other foundational models such as Amazon Q, Amazon Q Developer, etc. Let's talk about some of the risks and challenges that are involved with generative AI. Now, I know Ron mentioned a little bit about hallucinations, toxicity, data privacy, but I think one of the good news with all this generative AI security risk and challenges popping up is that it's actually putting a lot of spotlight on security, privacy, compliance. As a business requirement. It's not just being treated as a technical requirement, but now it is being considered as a business requirement. Much of the risk today, it can be mitigated by existing common security best practices, such as encrypting your data. Encrypting your data if it is at rest or even if transit, enforcing a policy of least privilege on your resources, isolating your workloads in VPC, filtering traffic with firewalls, automating your threat detection and incident response. These are some of the best practices that we have heard from security over years. And this is exactly how we can actually also mitigate some of the risk with generative AI as well. Now, if the customers are already using some of the data privacy models, GDPR, Bank Secrecy Act, HIPAA, etc., or they are already leveraging a information security framework, a standard, which could be ISO 27001 or anything else. The good news is that they do not have to start from scratch, and we can actually work on building up security, privacy, and compliance the right way on building guardrails for their AI innovation. So let's talk about what's responsible AI. I think Haresh on his slide talk about these 6 objects of responsible AI. I think my takeaway on this slide is that privacy and security are one of the 6 foundational pillars of building responsible AI. Now, by protecting your data and models from data loss, manipulation, you are helping to ensure the integrity, accuracy, and performance of your AI ML systems are intact. What really constitutes of responsible AI is still being debated globally, and it's constantly evolving as well. But for now, for AWS, what we define as responsible AI is being made up of these 6 key dimensions, which is bias and fairness, which is how we consider our system impacts different subpopulations of our users. Example, ethnicity, language. We want to make sure that there are no harmful disparities when it comes to system performance across subpopulations. The second one, which is explainability, which is whether the system is offering a clear rationale behind its decisions. For example, if a customer wants a justification for the inference that is produced by the AI system, which is very important in case of compliance requirements, etc., with explainability, we should be able to do that. Robustness, we'd like our AI systems the confidence that it cannot be easily fooled or confused. I know there are a lot of stories out there on how some people have tweaked the AI chatbots and got some discounts, etc. But when we talk about robustness, I think the success here comes is when at least we have an understanding of guidelines from when the system is expected to work and how it is expected to work. With privacy and security, which is our highest priority at AWS, I cannot emphasize on this point enough. Security and privacy are day zero, job zero for us. Whenever we talk about something, security comes first. And use of machine learning definitely brings potential risk to customers' content. But with Amazon preventive and mitigating, we have a lot of steps that we have taken to make sure that all of this is, all of your data is protected and it is secure. Governance, it is, different processes that we enable or we enforce to ensure there are responsible AI practices that are being carried out amongst all the stakeholders. And the last one, which is transparency, which is the extent to which, an organization enables your customers or the end users to know whether or not they are using a machine learning based application. And based on that, they can actually make some informed choices about their use of machine learning application. Let's talk about our first use case, which is security of generative AI. This is my favorite slide. I'll bring the whole slide up. And let's talk about how we think of defense in depth security. I think the goal of defense in depth strategy is to provide just multiple layers of security around your data and workloads. For example, if one of your layer is compromised, at least the other layers are there which can help isolate, slow down, or prevent a threat actor from moving laterally and making sure that it doesn't do what is, making sure it doesn't tamper your data or manipulate your data accordingly. So this is a good metaphor. Think it of like a castle. If you have to put all your precious or crown jewels, it will be at the center of your castle, which will be locked away, surrounded by multiple guards. Now, obviously, the castle has high and big walls, which prevents anybody from climbing over. The castle also may have multiple layers of walls around it. just in case if somebody succeeded in getting over any one of them. And on the outer wall, if you think of it, there are, guards, soldiers, and archers who are always constantly looking out for invaders. And then also on the outside of the castle, I'm sure you've seen it in movies and other series where you see a moat or a trench, which that is that actually slows down or prevent anyone from getting close to the castle. And likely beyond that moat, there are soldiers and armies patrolling at countryside to make sure that no attackers are getting inside or able to reach the castle. Now, this metaphor, what I just explained, is exactly how we should think about data security at AWS and how you should be thinking about applying security to your AI/ML workloads. The layers of defense in depth in cybersecurity, it includes data protection, which is the heart, using encryption, which is being wrapped around by additional layers of application protection, infrastructure protection, threat detection and incident response, identity access management, network edge protection, and ultimately policies, procedure, and awareness. Now, I know this is a pretty crowded slide here, but when I talk about AWS generative AI and security, we talk about how integrated and how they work well with each other. So customers should always start with a secure foundation on AWS before they begin to innovate or launch any generative AI services and products. Now, AWS security obviously is deeply integrated with our AI/ML services like Bedrock, Sagemaker, QBusiness, CodeGuru, etc., but also with our compute, storage, database, analytics, IoT, and other services. Now, because of this, it makes it easier for us to help out our customers accelerate with security by design and security by default approach for our Gen AI. Now, obviously, our suggestion is not that you do not need to use all sets of services that are mentioned here. This is just a comprehensive list what we offer, but depending on your use case, depending on what your current environment looks like, we can definitely suggest a whole set of services that can work well with it. And on some of these services that you see in the second bar under security, identity, and compliance, we are going to go a little deeper on it in the upcoming slides. For example, if we have to talk about how do we protect our sensitive data, we have a service called Amazon Macy, which works on protecting all your PII, PHI data and all your sensitive data. It scans your S3 buckets to make sure we do not put out your PII data. So we need to make sure that we are using this service so that nobody can actually take advantage of your PII data. It's not easily available. So it helps you identify that sensitive data before you put your data out on these training models. The second one, encrypt your data with your keys or AWS managed keys. So our service KMS, which actually helps you encrypt and decrypt your data with either AWS managed keys or your customer managed keys. It definitely supports automatic and manual key rotation, and it supports FIPS level 2 for 140 to level 3 certification as well. Now, how do we limit access to our data models and outputs? There are 4 services that are mentioned here. We need to apply a policy for least privilege to train our data models and applications using AWS Identity Center and IAM Access Analyzer. Explore zero trust capabilities to add any fine grained access controls with AWS verified access and verified permission. And with AWS verified access, we can further eliminate the cost, complexity, and performance issues related to VPNs as well. I think we spoke a little bit about how do we automate some of the incident response compliance. So our services like Security Hub, Config, Audit Manager, and Artifact can help you do that. So automating any security task on AWS actually enables you to be more secure by reducing human configuration errors and giving your team a chance to focus on the critical aspects. And that way you can automate some of the mundane tasks. You can select a wide variety of your deeply integrated solutions that can be combined with automated tasks, making it easier for your security team or the SOC team to work closely with the developer and operations team as well. Our AWS Security Hub basically is a CSPM, which is a cloud security posture management. It correlates a lot of data, and I think in the upcoming slide, I'll show you how it correlates data from different sources, and you can save that data in that security hub. Config, again, it assesses all your audits and other requirements. And Audit Manager makes sure that there is a continuous compliance and auditing going on. In fact, AWS Artifact, you can actually look at different artifacts available. Our AWS WAF and Shield Advance will help you defend your generative AI applications against any common web exploits, bots, which might impact or affect the availability or compromise security. You can filter your web traffic. You can prevent account takeover fraud. The WAF bot control controls any pervasive bot traffic, which can actually consume a lot of excess resources, queue matrix. It can also cause downtime in some cases, etc. Our Shield Advanced is a managed DDoS protection service that helps safeguard applications running on AWS. The Shield Advanced package is combined with WAF and Firewall Manager. Firewall Manager helps you manage all the rules for WAF easily. And the Shield Advanced package also comes with 24/7 support from our SRT team. So in case there is a DDoS that happens in your environment, the response team will actually help you out in mitigating and eradicating that DDoS attack. Protect data from any accidental or malicious changes. So some of the features on what our Amazon S3 bucket has, like object lock, you can actually prevent any training data or any model, deleting any amount of any data from these with this feature called object lock. Similarly, we have a versioning feature which helps you restore the best version. And the last known version as well, the best good version. And Amazon Backup is another backup service, which is cost effective, fully managed, and it helps you take backups. The second use case, I know I spoke about a little bit, but it clearly states, how our generative AI can empower security teams by proactively, if you think about, we can automate some of the patching, incident response, sensitive data discovery, anomalous configuration, etc. And when it comes to reactive, we can actually do like creating and running playbooks. We can take help on guided investigations, threat intelligence, correlating alerts and findings all together. How our services like Guard Duty, Detective, Inspector, and Macy can help improve your security. So I know I spoke a little bit about Amazon Guard Duty, which is our threat detection service that continuously monitors your AWS accounts and workloads for any malicious activity and delivers detailed security finding and visibility with remediations as well. It actually has a different offering for S3 protection, EKS protection, runtime, ECS, malware protection, and at Reinforce, which happened in June, a recent announcement was made with Guard Duty S3 malware support. Our service, which is Inspector, which is our automated vulnerability management service, it continuously scans AWS workloads for any software vulnerabilities or any unintended network exposure as well. And then we have Detective, which simplifies and investigate all the processes that helps our security teams to conduct faster and more efficient, effective investigations across the generative AI stack. I know we spoke a little bit about Macy, which is identifying our sensitive data. And this is exactly what, how our services guard duty inspector detective can help you identify any threats that are going across in Bedrock, Sagemaker, and detective can help you simplify it by giving a graphical representation of all correlation of the security events and forensic investigation to help you out to understand where this attack happened, how it happened, what was the attack path, and so on. Aggregating security signals and accelerating insights. So Security Lake is our, I think the service was launched last year at Reinforce, which is our service where we aggregate all the security logs, not just from AWS environment, but also from your on-premise and other clouds as well. What it does, it normalizes all the data sources into OCSF format, which is Open Cybersecurity Schema framework. And then you can actually leverage Amazon Q for Business or Bedrock to give you deeper insights on what's exactly going on with each of these security logs that you have collected, which obviously helps out our SOC team in identifying the root cause earlier. And the last use case, security from AI-powered threats. I know Ron, Harish, all of them mentioned how these attacks are getting powerful day by day, whether it is denial of service attacks, bots out there, app vulnerabilities, OWASP top 10. We have to make sure that we have the right security in place that we can protect our data, protect your customer data against these attacks. I want to really highlight this OWASP top 10 because that commonly comes up a lot when we talk about generative AI. And I want to give an example because this is, we do not have time to cover each one of them in detail, but I'll just give you an example on, for example, over-reliance, sorry. It is not just that, we have to there are not just technical countermeasures we can take to protect against them. For example, over-reliance is that we are just overly relying on our LLM model to give us countermeasures, which might end up, there might be a lot of miscommunication, legal issues, vulnerabilities which goes undetected. So we definitely recommend a human to look over this, to what's being input, what's the output, how do we make sure that, we just do not rely on these LLM models. Similarly, how do we automate reasoning that is built in AWS? This is a great example of some universal statements that can be made, which gives you a proof on what features it relates to. For example, my S3 buckets are not publicly accessible. Amazon S3 has a block public access feature that can help you out. And similarly, there are other examples as well. I spoke about this, how the automation of threat detection and incident response services can help you generate that anomalous behavior earlier and remediate the incident that happened. Our services like Guard Duty, Macy Inspector, I spoke about that a little bit, can feed into Security Hub, which has multiple other sources and not just AWS sources, but we collaborate with multiple partners as well to send the data at one single tool and have a single pane of glass for you so that you can automate all your security checks, centralize all your security alerts. And then finally, you can send your data to either Security Lake or Detective to make sure that we understand what's going on with the data. I mentioned about this, that Guard Duty offers different levels of protection: S3, EKS, malware, RDS, Lambda, and runtime protection. Shield Advanced, again, this is our managed DDoS protection service, comes along with WAF and Firewall Manager, protects against vulnerability, exploitation, bad bots, any DDoS attacks, etc. I really wanted to put out this scoping matrix. If you haven't seen this yet, if you click on the scoping matrix, it's a hyperlink. It's a blog published by AWS on how do we think about security? How do we think about generative AI security, covering all the domains that you see here: governance, compliance, legal, privacy, risk management, controls, and resilience. For example, if you think about from a consumer application perspective, you can actually use Party Rock, ChatGPT. I'm sure everybody is using ChatGPT. But what are some of the things we need to keep in mind? For example, from a governance and compliance perspective, we need to make sure that the team is trained on what really to input, what kind of questions to ask. We really do not want them to enter any personal data on a chat GPT bot, right? And similarly, for risk management, we need to be aware of third-party risk that comes along with it, etc. So I would definitely recommend everybody to go through that link. It's very detailed and explained on where to start your journey, what your scope is, and how to think about security in each one of these domains. Last slide, the key takeaway. Again, follow that generative AI security scoping metrics to summarize what your security disciplines are and what use case you are following. The second one, again, like Ron said, it is not an alternative to human expertise, but if security professionals embrace it, they can actually enhance their performance, automate mundane tasks, summarize threat intelligence. They can be more proactive in doing all these things. And again, obviously, your data is not safe when it comes to Gen AI. So we need to make sure there are security measures taken place. There are security in the right way that you can think of to protect your data, which includes, threat detection, models, etc., which I just spoke about. That's it, I guess.